One of the other posts that has a fun image is the post titled "When the Fed Meets Silicon." You know, it has all of the robots around the FOMC table, and you know that post was based on the episode with Tara Sinclair. Her and her co-author Sophia Kazanik wrote a paper this year where they modeled the FOMC in AI, creating a synthetic FOMC with Sim Powell and Sim Waller, you know, all the works. And actually, one little behind-the-scenes tidbit from the podcast that I can share is that before the call, Tara and I were chatting, and she said that she had to get this paper out quicker than expected because you were so excited about it that you kept talking about this paper at conferences.
Oh, really?
Yes, and on the podcast. So they had to get it out quicker than they expected.
I did not know that.
So, but that episode was really fun, and it created a bunch of really fun hypotheticals. So I wanted to, explore a couple of these fun hypotheticals with you on our retrospective episode. So first, in the episode and in the Substack post, you mentioned an all-star FOMC. So who would your all-star AI FOMC be? You can give me all 12 if you're feeling really ambitious, but we can just do a starting 5 as well.
Well, let me start with some historical figures. So I think it'd be fun to go back, and we talked about this on the show, to go back and pull some people from history.
Sure.
And see how they would respond to current situations. So that was part of the exercise. And for those who haven't checked out the show, go do. But the point is they're able to take these current participants at FOMC, and they were able to actually predict what they voted very closely at a certain meeting. So it would be interesting to mix things up as you suggested. So I would love to go back and get the following individuals. I'd like to go back and get Alan Greenspan. There's lots of information about him. I'd like to get Paul Volcker, add him in. And then go even farther back than that. I'd like to go get William McChesney Martin. He was chair from 1951, 1970.
Okay.
He had a very productive run, stable Fed. It was a good time for the Fed. And then I'll go back one more. I'd go back and pull out Benjamin Strong.
Okay.
Now, he was the New York Fed president. He wasn't a chair. They didn't really have by that time, they didn't really have a board of governors that really had much teeth. And in fact, the law was changed in the 30s that made the chair more powerful. But he effectively led the Federal Reserve System. And some argue that when he died, it's one of the reasons the Fed response was so tepid and not very forceful. But he was a strong personality. So I would love to pull these people to the present, sit them on a panel, feed them the current data, but based on how they reasoned, how they thought, based on historical documents. Sure. See what they would do. Now, I would also add, just for funds, maybe for kicks and giggles, I would bring in some nominal GDP targeters. Now, in other words, I would bring back Jim Bullard. He's still alive, still with us.
Yes.
Put him on, see what he would say. And then I would bring maybe some Fed staffers who aren't necessarily past members, but I'd love to put Evan Koenig as a member.
Yeah.
He did a podcast with us this year. I'd like to maybe bring in a few others, but I'll stop there because my list is getting big.
Well, that sounds like a great list. Now, I want to stir the pot a little bit, David.
Okay.
So I'm sure that if you could have any economists on your all-star FOMC, it would be, nominal GDP folks like you mentioned, Evan Koenig and George Selgin even, or Scott Sumner. But if you could put together a starting 5 of economists on, the Fed side or even the academic side like George Selgin's on, who would produce the most entertaining debate? Who would you pick?
Well, definitely go with who you mentioned, George Selgin, because he's very passionate, strong, and he's well-informed. Usually it's not wise to disagree with him, but you can. So I'll start with George Selgin, and to put someone kind of opposite from him, but still I think kindred spirit, I'd put John Cochran.
Okay.
Because they often very strongly disagree, but they both, believe in, a limited footprint of the Fed. They believe in markets. But they're very strong views, but they're both well-informed, smart guys. Start with those two. Then I would go and put on the panel Eric Sims from Notre Dame. He's a great nominal GDP targeter. He's a past guest of the show a few years back. I would put him on, and then I have as a countervailing force, maybe put Rich Clarida on.
Sure.
Another one. They're both new Keynesian. One favors nominal GDP targeting. One's more of an inflation target. I think that'd be a rich debate. And then I would put on, again, this is for like entertainment
value.
Okay,
we're trying to see who's going to duke it out the best.
Okay. Then I would put Lori Logan.
Sure.
She's a wonderful person, great personality, very strong on ample reserves. and then I would put Bill Nelson opposite her.
Okay.
They could duke it out on the operating system.